All right, time to talk tech. We do this every Thursday afternoon. Carmi Levy, CTV's tech analyst, joins us. Carmi, I guess I want to start with as much a tech story as it is a business story. We found out earlier this week, just a couple of days ago, and I haven't checked to see if they still qualify today, but NVIDIA became the first publicly traded company to reach a $5 trillion valuation. Now, for people who don't know, maybe you could provide a little background here. NVIDIA is, I guess, at the forefront of AI, or the chips that actually power AI. So your reaction to this, first of all, and secondly, because of AI, we're starting to now hear more and more companies laying people off. I think Amazon's announced potentially laying off 30,000 people before they're done and possibly replacing them because of AI. So how much of that is actually due to AI?
Pretty much all of it. AI is really rewriting the rules of how business gets done, and it's prompting a lot of companies to start looking at their plans and going, do we really need those people, or is this something that technology can do? And NVIDIA, a lot of people who play games, video games, might remember them because they're the company that makes the best video game cards for your computer. And as it turns out, that technology, known as a GPU or graphics processing unit, it's also really good at handling AI because AI requires a lot of computing power, and NVIDIA's chips are really good at that. And so NVIDIA has had this one of the reasons why it's growing as fast as it has been is that its technology is integral to those data centers, that whenever you ask ChatGPT a question, it's the data center, this computer, this giant building far away that answers the question. And NVIDIA's technology populates most of those data centers. And so as AI explodes as a business, every other tech company is building these huge data centers to power these AI workloads. And as it turns out, they're turning to NVIDIA to make sure they have the right processors to power their computers. So it took them 3 months to go from $4 trillion of valuation to $5 trillion, whereas it took 13 months to go from 3 to 4. So not only are they the most valuable company in the history of the world, but their rate of growth is accelerating kind of faster than we can even begin to imagine. So this is all about AI. And then you look to the other major headline of the week where Amazon is getting rid of, they're saying 14,000, but there are other reports that suggest 30, others that say over the next 2 years, they could see about 160,000 fewer jobs at Amazon. The entire industry is kind of looking to Amazon almost as the canary in the coal mine. If Amazon is saying the quiet part out loud, we can use AI to not hire all these people, you can bet that other companies are going to follow their lead. So we've been talking about AI making jobs go extinct for a very long time. We're starting to see all the pieces come together, and in some cases, there are a lot of people in tech who are losing their jobs because of that.
The other issue, too, now that you bring it up, I'm just curious because we know that it takes a tremendous amount of electricity to provide power for all these AI data centers, right? Am I reading right that they're now starting to build nuclear or consider building small nuclear reactors to power them instead?
They are. Whenever you look at, pretty much every major tech company this year, so Microsoft, Google, Amazon, OpenAI, they have all announced plans to spend not only tens of billions of dollars a year, but hundreds of billions of dollars on AI infrastructure. So that includes the data centers with all the powerful servers, as well as clean power to keep the lights on in these data centers. For example, Microsoft signed a deal to reactivate one of the reactors at the Harrisburg 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant. Remember, that was the site of the famous meltdown. This is the one that didn't melt down, but Microsoft is reactivating it. Amazon investing huge in small nuclear power plants. And so not sort of the giant ones that we would have seen in the past, but smaller facilities similar to one that's being built in Ontario, just recently announced by the Ontario government. So everyone, they're almost falling over themselves announcing wind power, solar, nuclear, anything to power these massive data centers that are so much larger, so much more power hungry than the data centers that we've sort of been used to since the beginning of the internet era. So it's almost like this power, this superpower arms race. Build the biggest data centers, make sure you have the power to keep them on, and keep those dollars coming, because it is going to be easily the biggest infrastructure investment we've seen in the history of humankind.
Unbelievable. Meanwhile, there's always seems to be troubling stories to go along with the good news in AI, right? And this one is one of them. OpenAI, their data suggesting 1 million users, have discussed, of all things, suicide with ChatGPT, and that's over the course, not of a month or a year, over how long, Carmi?
This is a week. In the course of a given week, that 0.15% of their active users will have a conversation that talks about suicidal ideation or exhibits emotional attachment to the chatbot, or also shows signs of psychosis or mania in their conversations with the chatbot. So, OpenAI says, it's only 0.15%. But the reality is, this is a group of 800 million people using this app every single week. It is the fastest growing technology of all time. The rate of adoption is incredible. And at some point, it's going to be bigger than even the biggest social media platform. We're all going to be using it, just like we all use Google every day. So even though OpenAI is kind of poo-pooing the numbers and saying it's not that big of a deal, it's a tiny percentage, 0.15% of 800 million turns out to be a lot of people. And what's frightening here is that OpenAI knows that this is happening, and they're not moving fast enough to introduce better protections. And of course, there are no laws in place that require them to do so, and there are no consequences for this. So it's a bad situation. If you're a parent of a child using these tools, it's something that you want to be aware of. That if they're spending a lot of time interacting with a chatbot, you may want to maybe have a conversation with them, not necessarily spy on them using it, but speak to them about those risks, because those risks are very clear. And even if the company says the numbers are small, the risk is significant.
Then I want to get to my favorite tech story of the week, which I did not even hear about until you mentioned it to me today. Nike, introducing its first ever powered footwear. Please give me the details.
This is easily the wickedest thing. I want this now. I can't get it because they haven't announced when it's going on sale or how much it'll cost, but they're calling it Project Amplify, and they say it's the world's first powered footwear system, and it kind of looks like a high-tech running shoe made out of carbon fiber with this anklet extension above it. It wraps around your ankle. It has a motor, a drive belt, and a rechargeable battery. It's kind of like a brace. And basically what it does is it allows the average, this isn't for a super athlete, it's for the average person like you or me or any of our listeners, to allow you to walk or run faster and cut your time down, which, sounds amazing. And, what they're doing is they're just kind of showing it around, getting feedback and trying to figure out sort of what version 2 should look like. This is version 1, but they'll continue to develop the technology with the intention of eventually selling this to all of us. What I'm excited about is this has potential to be a great assistive technology. If you think about folks who have difficulty walking, difficulty with mobility, technology like this, it's almost like an e-bike for walking. It could be a game changer for folks who have had difficulty getting around. When this thing ultimately comes to market, I think it'll be revolutionary, and I would be first in line to give this thing a try.
And again, just to clarify, so this is not, to enhance performance athletes, right, and their abilities. This is for the average person to just kind of make them be able to go a little bit quicker?
Yeah, exactly. A little bit quicker, a little bit further with a little bit less effort. It's the same analogy as an e-bike, right? When you get on an e-bike, you're still pedaling, you're still going up the hill, climbing Mount Royal, like I love to do. But it just makes it a little bit easier. It lets you go a little bit faster. Maybe you're not in the world's greatest shape, but you can still keep up with other folks who can. And from my experience using assistive devices, it's the kind of thing that makes the difference between being active and not being active. It motivates you to get out there. So a little bit of technology can, really have a major impact on people's health. And I think this is definitely the kind of technology to watch. The fact that it's Nike, it's definitely something worth focusing on because this is a company that has the resources to eventually bring it to market.
I love this story. I wonder how long. Then again, you hear something like this and you wait a few years, but the way things go these days, I imagine it won't be a few years. It might be a few months. So fingers crossed. I think this is a great idea.
Yeah, I think it'll be quick, and this is part of a broader effort for them to bring similar devices to market. So this is just one of many, and the company has committed to this. So I expect to see these things sooner rather than later on store shelves.
By the way, do they have a flying shoe yet? Have they announced that?
Not yet. I'm still waiting for that, but just right next to my flying car. But I'm a patient guy.
Well, hold on a sec. You're laughing. I saw something the other day on the internet at some trade show somewhere where this woman is wearing a pair of sneakers that have jets at the bottom and actually lift off the ground. So
you see a lot of those demos, and they all look really cool. It almost looks like a drone on your feet.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they'll demo them at a conference or something, and then they'll share it online. But bringing them to market and actually turning into a successful product, there's a very wide gulf between that. And of course, people flying in these devices, the regulatory hoops they have to jump through, I don't even want to ask about.
That's for now. Soon we'll all be flying. We can't we can't all afford flying cars. Some of us will have to have flying running shoes, Carmi, just so you know.
I'd be okay with that. If it allows me to catch my bus to get across town, I'm there for it.
There you go. Don't come to Montreal. We have a bus strike. Carmi Levy. Thank you, Carmi. Appreciate it.
The newest tracks. Let's go. New music. And the next big thing.
Always on the new music first.
Your first place to hear it all.
'Cause you gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice. Playing now.
iHeart New Music. Your digital station for brand new drops, fresh finds, and tomorrow's bangers.
I think we need something new.
Discover iHeart New Music. Always fresh, always first. Stream now on the free iHeartRadio app.